While pursuing your passions is great, there is a fine line between burning for something and burning out. Here's how psychologists distinguish healthy from unhealthy passion and what you can do to be sustainably productive and find more flow states. Welcome back for another video on how to be passionate without compromising your well-being. I'm Eva from FlowLab, a mental fitness app with the mission to help people develop a strong growth mindset and train the mental skills necessary to experience more flow states. If you want to know more about this peak performance state, check out our recent video where we give you 3 tips on how to experience more flow. But today we're going to talk about a topic that I wanted to dive into for quite some time, because in a survey from Burnout Nation from 2020, 3/4 of the American sample reported symptoms of worker burnout. I think we all agree that this is way too much. But in this context, I was wondering where we can actually draw the line between passion and obsession, because I feel that sometimes everything from interests and hobbies to fulfilling one's purpose in life is put into the category of passion, and that it's sometimes hard to distinguish when we're doing these activities for their own sake or when it spirals into workaholism. That's why I looked into the research in this area and found some interesting things. Just a quick side note, you can find all facts, studies, and tips in the article on passion that you can find on the FlowLab blog. I'll put the link in the description box. But for now, stay tuned to learn more about the 2 different types of passion, how they relate to flow states, and 5 questions that you can ask yourself to assess whether your passions are healthy or not. When I decided to do my psychology master next to my job and the workshops that I'm giving, some people told me that I need to be careful not to burn out. Although I really appreciated their concern, I thought about the reasons for burning out. And of course, there are various reasons for that, and I'm only covering a few of them today. But one myth about burnout, and that's something that's also in line with the studies I read on passion, is that it's a matter of time investment whether you'll feel exhausted and burn out or not. But actually, we need to look a little bit deeper, because it's a bit more complex than that. Turns out it's not merely the level of ambition or the fact that we are passionate, it's also why we are passionate that matters for our well-being. So in psychology, passion is generally defined as love for a highly important activity, up to a point where it becomes part of a person's identity. And there's this dualistic model of passion, which distinguishes 2 types of passion, namely harmonious and obsessive passion. And you can guess it from their names already. Obsessive passion implies that the decision to engage or disengage in the activity becomes uncontrollable, because it isn't driven by pure enjoyment, but rather by feelings of pressure. And these pressures arise when a person identifies so strongly with what they're doing that their self-worth depends on engaging and also performing well in the activity. For example, people may keep going because they're looking for social acceptance or to increase their self-esteem. And this urge makes it hard for the person not to engage in the activity, up to a point where it gets out of hand and turns into an obsession. So although the person still enjoys their work, they may be guided by uncomfortable feelings or pressures from the social environment, such as the anticipation of praise or a reward. And that's why obsessively passionate people usually have developed unhealthy habits, like checking their emails also on weekends so that they don't miss a thing. They sometimes also prioritize their passion over friends and family, or drop other goals that are usually also very important. Or maybe they think that if something went wrong or they made a mistake that is somehow related to their passion, that this is a personal failure. The thing is, this dedication and investment doesn't necessarily mean that they at least perform better, because at the same time, studies show that obsessively passionate people often struggle to focus on their tasks because too many performance-related thoughts swirl in their heads. They're too preoccupied. And there's a bunch of research linking obsessive passion to negative outcomes like fear of failure, anxiety, being more susceptible to threat and conflicts between one's passion and other areas of life. As I mentioned, deprioritizing friends and family, for example. Okay, but there's also a second type, namely harmonious passion. Here, the person is intrinsically motivated and can consciously decide to engage or disengage in their passion without any feelings of regret or guilt, for example. It's a strong yet willingful engagement in the activity. So the difference between the two is mainly that although the harmonious passion is still an important part of the person's identity, engaging in it remains under the person's control, and it doesn't conflict with other important goals or roles. The person has a good sense of self-worth and remains flexible and non-defensive in their approach. For example, imagine someone at work who's really enthusiastic about their task. They love working on them during the day, but when they're done, they are also able to put their laptop aside and focus on other important things, like spending time with their family, for example. So for this much healthier type of passion, there are many positive effects for both performance and also well-being. For example, higher engagement and commitment, higher psychological well-being, so they're basically happier, better relationships, more grit, higher levels of concentration. And apparently, people with a harmonious passion experience more so-called positive, spontaneous thoughts about their passion. Maybe to give you a bit of context, traditionally a lot of research has focused on exploring negative spontaneous thoughts, such as mind-wandering or ruminations, for example. But there are also positive spontaneous thoughts that are associated with higher life satisfaction, experiencing more meaning and flourishing in general. And they are said to encourage positive adaptive behaviors, like following one's harmonious passion even further, for example. And one thing that really intrigued me to read was that the positive effects of harmonious passion aren't limited to the passionate activity, because there seems to be a spillover effect, meaning that these positive effects I just listed can be transferred to other life areas as well. Commitment for your passion may also increase commitment for other tasks and goals. More focus on your passionate activity may spill over to other activities so that you can deeply focus there too. Harmonious passion is also linked to flow states, which makes sense if you think about it, because if we deeply care about something, we also pay more attention to it, right? So harmonious passion thereby drives focus, and with a secure sense of self-worth, as with harmonious passion, people are also less self-conscious in social situations. They feel more in control of what they're doing, which is a central component of flow as well. They are better able to balance that perceived challenge skill ratio that you may already know if you have watched our other videos on flow, meaning that when they feel overwhelmed because the challenge seems too high, for example, or also when they feel bored because it's too easy, they manage to regulate themselves effectively to find the sweet spot between a challenge and their perceived skills, another central precondition to get in the zone. And by the way, the spillover effect that I just mentioned works here as well. So harmonious passion has not only been found to increase flow in the passionate activity, but also in other activities. Imagine how fantastic a day would look if you feel engaged and in flow during the day at work, for example, and afterwards you still have the energy and motivation for other hobbies such as sports or making music, and find flow there as well. And fun fact, this seems to even protect us against burnout, because harmoniously passionate people usually experience more flow, which in turn decreases the risk for burnout and increases well-being. And what we learned from that is that for peak productivity to be sustainable, we should develop harmonious passion and not only reflect on our behavior, so for example, how much time we spend on the activity, but also where the passion originates from. And this is something that we stress over and over again at Flow Lab, because changing our behavior isn't enough. We also have to train our mental and emotional fitness. And to do so, rather than giving you pragmatic tips on a behavioral level, I have a few reflection questions for you today to make sure that your passions are healthy. If you like, you can take your journal and take a few notes, but most importantly, take your time with finding the answers. Some of these questions may not be answered immediately, and that's totally fine. You can also ask other people for their opinion as well, someone who knows you well and whom you trust, because, we all have our blind spots. Okay, but coming to question number 1. Would I still engage in the activity if no one knew about it? That's actually always a good indicator for the motivation that lies behind our actions. What if nobody knew about your efforts and accomplishments? Of course, we're social animals and like being praised, but this shouldn't be the only reason why we're doing something. Intrinsically motivated actions are pleasurable and rewarding for their own sake, and independent from these rewards or praises. So ask yourself this question a few times and observe which feelings arise during this little thought experiment and whether your motivation changes. Question number 2, what core strengths do I possess and how can I use them more often? This reflection is useful on different levels. Not only does research confirm that using your strength increases harmonious passion, it's also one of the best ways to increase flow. Because being good at something releases dopamine into our system, which drives motivation and focus. This in turn helps to find more flow, where we are able to unleash peak performance and improve ourselves so that our strengths become strengthened even further. This means you're eventually triggering an upward spiral between strength use and flow. If you want to learn more about it, there is a video on self-efficacy and flow that you can check out as well. All right, in order to find out your top strength, you can use one of the various strengths finder questionnaires, such as the VIA character strength survey, for example. The link is in the description box. And if you like, also give the flow session core strength a try for a guided reflection on your strong suit. I know the third question is a biggie, namely, what am I identifying with? This one may take some time, but it's definitely worth reflecting on it. During the reflection, you may also ask yourself things like, what are the things I hold closest to my heart? Which roles do I usually assume in my everyday life? Which experiences, quirks, or defining moments make me one of a kind? And does the activity reflect the qualities that I like about myself or not? Asking yourself these difficult questions may help you identify whether your passion is all-encompassing, so your self-worth really depends on it, because this is not always that obvious, or what else there is in your life that you can identify with. And we also have a guided reflection for you on this topic that you'll find in the flow training area of optimism called The Real You. Number 4, what's my pleasure-pain ratio? Become aware of whether the pleasure you derive from engaging in your passion still outweighs negative feelings such as guilt or fear you may experience when not engaging in your passion. How do days look where you don't spend your time on your passion, for example, on weekends or when on vacation, for example? Can you go cold turkey and still feel joyful, confident, and engaged during other activities as well? Or do you rather lack focus, perhaps even brood over your passion? Sometimes it's not easy to distinguish whether these are your genuine feelings or whether your mind tricks you into believing that you feel a certain way. So this reflection needs a good emotional awareness, an aspect of emotional intelligence, which has also been linked to harmonious passion, by the way. Our flow sessions in the training area of ease, such as rock steady or gut instinct, assist you in training your emotional awareness, so don't miss out on them. And the final one, do I deprioritize other important goals? If you like, take a pen and paper to write down the goals and roles that are most important to you and how much time you ideally spend on each of them. And then compare it with how much time and energy you actually put into them now. Is there a discrepancy? If yes, how come? And does the decision to indulge in your passion feel controllable to you, or is there a hard to resist urge to go after it that somehow feels automated or uncontrollable? Afterwards, you can formulate concrete action plans that help you integrate your passion with other important goals. A recent study from 2019 found that implementation intentions, or also called if-then plans, can reduce conflict between different goals, which not only makes the experience more satisfying, but also increases harmonious passion. These sentences always have the same structure. If situation X arises, so that's your passionate activity, then I will do that, which is your alternative goal you want to make time for. So, for example, if I work all day at the office, because in this case, work is your passion, then I will call a close friend of mine during lunch break, so you can still nurture your friendships. Or another one could be, if I watch TV, then I will exercise during commercial breaks. I know building a healthy sense of self-worth and developing harmonious passion is surely not a one-time fix. It requires asking these difficult questions over and over again and training your mind on a regular basis. But now's the perfect time to start your mental fitness routine. So if you like, give the FlowLab app a try. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, it would mean a lot to me if you leave a thumbs up and comment the reflection question that you think has the greatest impact for you personally. Also, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss when the next video is online. I hope you have a fantastic day. Go get it, and I'll see you next time.